Title: saw a notification from my wife's male coworker pop up on her phone, and when I asked about it, she kept saying "I don't know" to every question until she finally admitted he hit on her. Before and now, I'm trying to figure out if she's been cheating on me. I wasn't snooping. That's the part people always assume first. Her phone lit up on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower, the screen buzzing softly against the granite. I was wiping down the stove, thinking about nothing more than whether we had enough milk for the morning. 15 years of marriage trains you to notice patterns. And that vibration didn't feel like a spam alert or a group text. It was a name, a man's name, Evan R. Just 2 words beneath it. "Hey, are you okay? You seem quiet today." I didn't touch the phone. I didn't unlock it. I didn't scroll. But something inside me went cold. When she came back into the kitchen, hair damp, wrapped in one of my old t-shirts, I tried to act normal. That was the hardest part, pretending the floor hadn't shifted under my feet. "Your phone lit up," I said casually. "Someone named Evan." She froze, just for half a second, but I saw it. "Oh, that's just a guy from work," she said, opening the fridge too quickly. "Why?" "Nothing," I said. "Just thought it was odd. Sounded personal." She shrugged, too fast. "I don't know." That was the first "I don't know." I let it sit for a minute, my hands resting on the counter, palms flat. "How long have you known him?" "I don't know." "Does he usually text you at night?" "I don't know." I turned to look at her then. She was facing away from me, staring into the refrigerator like it held answers. 15 years. I knew every version of her silence. This one was new. "Has he ever hit on you?" I asked quietly. The room felt too small all of a sudden. She closed the fridge, slowly, took a breath. "I don't know." That was when my chest started to ache. "Please don't do that," I said. "Don't pretend you don't know. Just tell me." She crossed her arms, defensive now. "He made a comment once, a while ago. It didn't mean anything." "What kind of comment?" She shook her head. "I don't know." I felt something old and familiar rise in me. Not anger yet, but the instinct to fix, to smooth things over, to believe her because believing was easier than rebuilding my life at 46. "So he hit on you," I said, "and you kept talking to him." "It was nothing," she snapped, and I told him no. "When?" She opened her mouth, closed it. "I don't know." That was when I realized something worse than the possibility of cheating. She wasn't lying confidently. She was stalling. We stood there in silence, the hum of the refrigerator loud between us. I thought about all the small things I'd brushed aside lately. The late meetings, the new passcode on her phone, the way she angled the screen away from me on the couch. None of it was proof, but together it felt like a pattern I hadn't wanted to see. "I'm not accusing you," I said finally. "I'm asking because I need to know if my marriage is still real." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time that night, she didn't say, "I don't know." She said, "Why are you making this such a big deal?" That answer landed harder than any confession could have, because in that moment I understood something terrifying. If the truth was harmless, she would have said it already. I didn't yell. I didn't demand her phone. I didn't threaten anything. I just nodded. "Okay," I said quietly. "Then I guess I need to start asking different questions." She watched me walk out of the kitchen, confusion and something like fear flickering across her face. That night, lying awake beside her, listening to her breathe like nothing was wrong, I made a decision that scared me more than the suspicion itself. I was done guessing, and whatever I found next, whether it proved my worst fears or shattered them, I knew one thing for certain. I would not be the last person in this marriage to learn the truth. The next morning felt normal on the surface. That was the part that unsettled me most. She made coffee the way she always did. 2 strong, splash of oat milk, 1 sugar. She asked if I'd be home late, kissed my cheek before leaving. No tension, no awkwardness. If anything, she seemed relieved, like she'd convinced herself the moment had passed. But for me, something fundamental had shifted. I realized I had spent years asking the wrong questions. Not "Are you cheating?" Not "Who is he?" Those questions put her in control of the truth. Instead, I started paying attention. I noticed she now kept her phone face down on the table. I noticed how she stepped into the hallway to answer calls that used to happen right in front of me. I noticed she stopped mentioning coworkers by name. Everyone became someone from work. And I noticed something else, something small but telling. She stopped complaining about work. For 15 years, she'd vented to me about deadlines, bad management, pointless meetings. Suddenly, work had become pleasant, energizing. She came home lighter, distracted, humming to herself while cooking. That kind of shift doesn't come from nothing. I didn't confront her again. I didn't want half-truths or rehearsed explanations. I wanted reality, so I started asking questions somewhere else. I took a long lunch and drove by her office building, parked across the street like an idiot, feeling ridiculous and ashamed, until I saw her come out laughing with a man I recognized immediately from her company's website. Evan. He was taller than I expected, confident posture, hand on the small of her back for just a second too long before she stepped away. Not a lover's touch, but not a colleague's either. They didn't kiss, they didn't didn't hide. That was worse. People who think they aren't doing anything wrong don't bother being careful. I sat in my car and felt something hollow open in my chest. Not rage, not jealousy, disappointment. The kind that comes when you realize you may not actually know the person sleeping beside you. That night, she mentioned Evan on her own. Evan says the team might go out for drinks Friday, she said casually, watching my reaction from the corner of her eye. There it was, a test. Have fun, I said. You deserve it. Her shoulders relaxed. She smiled. Too quickly. That's when I understood another hard truth. If I accused her now, she'd deny it. If I demanded proof, she'd hide it better. If I exploded, I'd become the villain in her story. So instead, I did something I never thought I would. I stayed quiet. I pulled phone records, not messages, just timestamps. I checked shared calendars. I remembered dates she said she was working late and matched them to expense charges I could still see on our joint account. Patterns emerged. Not certainty, not yet, but enough to know I wasn't crazy. One evening, as she slept beside me, her phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. I didn't pick it up. I didn't need to, because I already knew this wasn't about one coworker. It was about honesty, about respect, about whether the woman I married was still choosing me when she thought I wasn't looking. And that's when I made the hardest decision of all. If she was going to lie by omission, then I would learn the truth the same way, quietly, carefully, and without giving her time to prepare. It was the laundry that finally did it. Not a lipstick stain, not a hotel receipt, just a small, ordinary thing that would have meant nothing to anyone else. I was folding shirts on a Sunday afternoon while she ran errands. Same routine we'd had for years. I picked up one of her blouses, soft blue, the one she only wore to work meetings, and noticed the tag was still stiff. New. She'd worn it 3 times already. I stood there longer than I should have, the shirt hanging from my hands like it weighed something. She never kept tags on. Ever. She cut them off the moment she got home, said they scratched her neck. That's when it hit me. She hadn't come home after wearing it. I didn't spiral. I didn't sit down. I just finished the laundry like a man who knew something important had changed but wasn't ready to say it out loud. When she got back, bags in hand, I asked casually, "You buy that blue blouse recently?" She nodded. "Yeah, why? Looks good on you," I said. "I don't remember you cutting the tag off." She hesitated. Just a flicker. Oh, must have forgotten. There it was again. That pause, that half second of recalculation. That night while she showered, I did something I never thought I would do in 15 years of marriage. I checked her car. I didn't dig. I didn't tear it apart. I just opened the passenger door and looked. In the side pocket was a receipt, crumpled but readable. Hotel bar, 2 drinks, Friday night. The same Friday, she told me she was out with the team. My hands shook, not with anger, but with clarity, because now I understood something important. She wasn't being careless. She was being selective. She wanted just enough truth to feel honest and just enough secrecy to feel free. When she came to bed, I turned off the lamp and said nothing. She curled up against me, her head on my chest, breathing slow and familiar. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the rhythm of a woman who might already be living a second life. The next day, I did something deliberate. I invited Evan to dinner. I framed it as friendly, harmless. "I've heard so much about you," I wrote. "Thought it'd be nice to finally meet." She stared at the message when I showed her. "You don't have to do that," she said quickly. "I want to," I replied. "You work so closely together. It's normal, right?" Her mouth opened, closed. "I don't know if he's free." "I already asked," I said gently. He said yes. That was the first time she looked scared. Not angry, not defensive, scared. Dinner was set for Thursday, and for the first time since that notification lit up on her phone, I wasn't wondering if something was happening anymore. I was waiting to see who would lie first. Thursday came too slowly, and then all at once. I set the table the way I always did when guests came over. Nothing fancy. Clean plates, real silverware, a bottle of red wine I'd been saving for no particular reason. The kind of dinner that said we're ordinary people with nothing to hide. She watched me from the kitchen doorway while I cooked. "You didn't have to go through all this," she said. I smiled without turning around. "I like cooking, you know that." She didn't answer. Instead, she checked her phone. Again. When the doorbell rang, she flinched. Evan stood there holding a small paper bag, dessert from a local bakery, the thoughtful kind of gesture that lands just on the polite side of too familiar. Mid-30s, confident posture, easy smile, the kind of man who knew how to be liked. "Hey," he said. "Thanks for having me." "Of course," I replied, shaking his hand. "I've heard a lot about you." He glanced at my wife. Something passed between them. Quick, practiced, a shared awareness. Dinner started normally. work stories, safe topics. He complimented the food. She laughed a little too loudly at one of his jokes. I noticed everything, but I said nothing. Halfway through the meal, I asked him, "So how long have you two been working together?" "Almost a year," he said easily. "We're on the same projects a lot. She's great under pressure," he added, turning to her. "Always has my back." She smiled, but her eyes stayed on her plate. I poured more wine. Let the silence stretch just long enough to feel intentional. "Funny," I said lightly. "She told me you hit on her once." The air changed. Evan blinked. "Once." Then looked at her. What?" She stiffened. "I didn't say." "It's okay," I interrupted calmly. "I'm not accusing. I just thought it was better to clear the air." He shifted in his chair. "I mean, I might have said something stupid once. A joke. It wasn't serious." "What did you say?" I asked. He hesitated. She spoke first. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me," I said, still quiet. "What did you say, Evan?" He exhaled. "I said she deserved someone who appreciated her. That was it." "And when was this?" I asked. Another pause. "A few months ago." She looked at him sharply. "I told you it was a mistake." My fork rested on the plate. "You told me it was nothing." Silence again. Thicker now. Evan cleared his throat. "Look, man, I didn't mean to cause trouble. If I crossed a line..." "You did," I said. "But that's not what I'm trying to understand." Both of them looked at me. I leaned back slightly. "What I'm trying to understand is why you felt comfortable saying that to a married woman, and why my wife felt comfortable not telling me the whole truth." She opened her mouth, closed it. "I didn't cheat," she said finally. "I swear." "I didn't ask if you did," I replied. That landed harder than yelling ever could. Evan stood up. "I think I should go." "Yes," I said. "You should." He left quickly. Didn't look back. When the door closed, she sat very still. "I was scared," she said. "I didn't want you to overreact." I looked at her for a long moment. "You didn't protect me. You protected a secret." Her eyes filled with tears. "I chose you." "No," I said gently. "You chose comfort, and now you're afraid of the cost." I stood and began clearing the table. That night she slept on the couch. Not because I asked her to, but because neither of us knew how to share a bed with something unsaid between us anymore. And lying awake in the dark, I realized the truth wasn't going to come from her. It was going to come from patterns, from timing, from what she did next. When you're ready, say, continue chapter 5. That's where the quiet investigation turns into a decision neither of us can undo. Continue chapter 5. Chapter 5. What the silence finally said. I didn't confront her the next morning. That surprised her. She watched me from the hallway as I put on my jacket, the same way she used to watch me when we were first married. Curious, unsure, waiting to be reassured. "You're not going to say anything?" she asked. "About what?" I replied, tying my shoes. Her mouth opened, then closed again. "About last night." I looked up at her then, really looked. "I already heard what you were ready to tell me," I said. "Now I need to pay attention to what you don't." I left before she could respond. For the next week, I became quiet in a way that wasn't passive. I listened. I noticed. I stopped filling in the gaps for her. She stayed late at work twice. Not unusual, but she didn't text this time. Her phone never left her side. Screen down. Notifications silenced. When I asked how her day was, the answers were shorter, less detail, like she was editing herself in real time. One evening, she came home smiling. "Too light, too fast. Evan transferred to another team," she said casually, hanging her coat. "We won't be working together anymore." I nodded. "Okay." She paused, clearly expecting something else. Relief, gratitude, praise. Instead, I asked, "Did you ask for that?" Her eyes flickered. "No, it was management's decision." Another omission, another almost truth. That night, while she showered, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message preview lit the screen. "Evan, I'm sorry. I should have respected boundaries sooner. I miss talking to you." I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Because in that moment, something inside me settled. Not with anger, but with clarity. She hadn't cheated, but she had leaned. Leaned emotionally. Leaned into a tension that didn't belong to her. Leaned away from the honesty we'd built our marriage on. And that kind of leaning doesn't happen by accident. The next Sunday morning, I made coffee and sat at the table when she came in. "I saw the message," I said calmly. She froze. "You went through my phone?" she asked, defensive. "No," I replied. "It came to me." Silence stretched between us. "I didn't respond," she said quickly. "I swear." "I believe you," I said, and I meant it. She exhaled shakily. "Then why do you look like that?" "Because believing you doesn't undo what happened," I said. "Trust isn't just about what you didn't do. It's about what you allowed." Tears slid down her face. "I didn't think it would go this far." "That's the problem," I said softly. "You didn't think about us until it was already fragile." She reached across the table, but I didn't take her hand. "I need time," I continued. not to punish you, to decide if I can stand on ground that moved without telling me. Her voice broke. Are you leaving? I don't know, I said honestly, but I'm done pretending this was nothing. That night I slept in the guest room, not because I hated her, but because love that survives doesn't survive on denial. It survives on accountability, on whether the person who hurt you is willing to sit in the discomfort without rushing you to forgive. I don't know yet what will become. What I do know is this: infidelity doesn't always start with a body. Sometimes it starts with a silence you choose not to break. And once you hear it clearly, you can't unhear it. Was this revenge perfectly justified, or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice, and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Lauren's story, because here betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks, and every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp, stay unbroken, stay tuned.